It's the greatest introduction video in the history of sports betting. I'm so excited. It's 5 o'clock Eastern time. The NFL is back and the FTN Network has got you covered. Welcome to the debut of the FTN Bets NFL betting show. I'm your host, Tom Hannifan. I'm joined by a woman who went 2-0 last night on her props on Thursday Night Football. She's a fantastic Taylor Mathis. And of course, it wouldn't be an FTN broadcast without the workhorse of the network, Mr. Chris Meaney. He's on 26 hours a day. Let's take a look at the entire slate of games for this upcoming weekend so everybody can kind of wet their palate. For those of you watching us live, we invite you to get involved in the chat and let us know what you'd like us to weigh in on. We're going to be touching on a handful of these games that we think are going to be really, really important, really exciting, but we do want to hear from you what you want because this is so all of you can get rich. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications on YouTube. Comment, like us as well. Towards the end of the show, we're going to be getting to our 3 and out best bets segment. So at the conclusion, we're going to have our bronze, silver, and gold picks from Taylor and Chris. And I believe Taylor is going to have a little bonus that you guys are going to want to check out. We recommend you keep an eye on our official bet tracker, FTN Alerts, and of course, FTNBets.com. Become an FTN Bets premium member today and save 10% when you sign up with the code FTN Wins. You can get access to our top analysts, tools, picks, and more. Visit FTNBets.com for more information. Now, of course, the NFL is back this weekend, but it returned last night, Thursday Night Football, the Bills beating the Rams in Los Angeles. Taylor, I want to start with you because everybody was going into this game thinking, oh, this could be a preview of the Super Bowl. And now a lot of people are like, oh, the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. How was your reaction to this game?
Well, I think that the Buffalo Bills were as advertised. Quarterback Josh Allen threw for almost 300 yards. He had 3 passing touchdowns and he rushed for a touchdown. And they had 7 sacks. I think that the Rams looked like they drank a little too much Super Bowl champagne because they were very hungover. Matt Stafford, 3 interceptions, 7 sacks, like I said, from the Buffalo defense. The only bright spot they really had was Cooper Kupp, 128 receiving yards and a touchdown. But other than that, there really wasn't anything coming from LA.
And Chris, you got to be really ticked off if you're a Rams fan or if you put a bet on Allen Robinson because he was MIA. What was the problem?
Yeah, AK makers. Where were these guys? Right, the new shiny toy in Allen Robinson. You're right. Only 2 targets. His second target in that game last night came on a Hail Mary throw towards the I think it was the final play of the game from the Rams standpoint. And, I'm not too worried overall about Allen Robinson. He wasn't getting the looks. Clearly, that is concerning. It may take some time for him. He's a veteran wide receiver. This is still the best coach that he's ever played with in Sean McVay and the best quarterback he's ever played with, even at Matthew Stafford's point of his career. So he was out there. He ran 2 fewer routes than Cooper Kupp. He was still on the field, getting his cardio in, that's for sure. Not getting a lot of looks from Stafford, but I'm not overly concerned with him. But, as Taylor said, the offensive line, not great. Buffalo's defense really right after Matthew Stafford. They couldn't really, establish the run, missing 40-year-old Andrew Whitworth from the offensive line last year. Certainly seems like it's going to be an issue for this team moving forward. But Cam Akers, I think, was the biggest surprise for me, Tom. I mean, 3 carries, 0 yards, hardly touched the field. I know he's coming off that significant Achilles injury, but I thought we'd see more of him and Allen Robinson, to your point.
I agree with you. And then for the Bills, I'm very curious to see if Von Miller can keep up that kind of pace because he was just living in the backfield of the LA Rams there. I saw somebody in the comments section saying that Matthew Stafford looked like Jared Goff last night. Oh, that's not what you want to hear after the Super Bowl.
At all.
No. And listen, I think Detroit is potentially going to have a nice season, but let's not jump to conclusions.
I think you're drinking the Hard Knocks juice, or at least I am, because I will buy anything Dan Campbell is selling me right now.
Fair. Oh, no. And listen, I've had the chance to have Jason Kabinda on my podcast. And listen, like what Dan Campbell's doing is real. It really sounds like he's getting through to the players there. And hopefully there's some change for a long-suffering fan base. But, we'll see what happens. Let's dive into a couple of the games that we are really paying attention to this weekend. Chris, I want to start off with you. It's the Pats at the Dolphins, -3.5 to the Dolphins, which is interesting in Miami. There's a lot that can happen in the AFC East this season. I know you can look at what the Buffalo Bills did last night and say, hey, these guys could be well on their way deep into the playoffs once again. But it's kind of anybody's game between the Pats and the Dolphins, and it seems during the offseason that Miami kind of closed close the gap with New England. What do you think going into this game?
I agree. You know, I really like this Dolphins squad. Now, there's a lot of question marks, of course. I mean, nobody really believes in Tua Tagovailoa. That's what everybody says. And
Except for Tyreek Hill.
Except for Tyreek Hill. Good call. Tyreek does maybe believe a little bit too much. And I'm with him, right? Why not have the confidence in your quarterback? But there's a lot of different changes with these two squads. And, you know, you're talking about Miami. They brought in a numerous amount of running backs. They want to play fast. It starts with the head coach, Mike McDaniel, who we haven't seen as a head coach, who's been with, one of the better play callers that we've seen in the NFL his whole career, and Kyle Shanahan. He's kind of just been attached to his hip, whether he's been an assistant offensive coordinator, a quarterback's coach, an offensive line coach, things like that, from San Fran, Atlanta, Houston, all those things. So it's going to be interesting to see how he runs his offense. Is it going to be similar to Kyle Shanahan? And the way that they ran it in San Fran over the past couple of years is fast-paced, quick, running the football a lot, getting it to their playmakers and watching them explode after the catch. I mean, the Niners have a lot of great pass catchers in Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Kittle. And I think we can say the same thing for Miami. We know that Tyreek Hill is very explosive. Chase Edmonds was brought in. He's very explosive in the passing game. He's pretty quick. They have Jalen Waddle, who showed up as one of the better rookie wide receivers last year as well. And, Mike Gesicki is another guy. Maybe not going to get as much love this season, but he's also very explosive in the passing game as well. And they brought in Raheem Mostert, who played under Shanahan last year in San Fran. They told him he's going to have a very similar role. So he's probably going to be the lead back, maybe get some goal line work there. So it's just really exciting to me. It's a bit of a new look. Miami, they played at a bit of a slow pace last year using multiple running backs. That may continue, but I'm looking forward to seeing them. And on the other side with New England, it just seems like a bloody mess right now. I mean, they lost their offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels. He's now coaching with the Raiders in Las Vegas. Matt Patricia, is he really going to be a play caller? You just talked about the hard times in Detroit. That's part of it. He was there and he couldn't make anything work there. And, Mac Jones was great as a rookie quarterback last year, but this is year 2. They do have some appealing weapons in the passing game, but I see one team in Miami and there's reason to be optimistic. And I see another team in New England where maybe there might be some long struggles this year with that offense.
Taylor, I want to kind of piggyback off what Chris said in regards to Miami because Jalen Waddle was taken off the injury report today, so it is expected that he's going to play in this game. You pair him with Tyreek Hill, that's dangerous. Now, according to FTNBets.com, depending on who you select, Tua is picked for an over-under in passing yards of anywhere from 227.5 to 232.5. I personally take the over on that because it seems like Tua could have some success throwing the football, even if this isn't a circumstance where the Dolphins beat the Patriots. What do you think about that prop?
I like the prop, but I think everybody, including Chris, I have to disagree with them a little bit, is very high on Miami going into the season. And I think it's mostly because of the fact they went out and got a bunch of offensive weapons for Tua. He now has Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds and guys like Tyreek Hill. So he's got a lot more weapons surrounding him. But I think that everybody is forgetting about the fact that New England has Bill Belichick. He's won 321 NFL games and he has 8 Super Bowl rings. That's an edge, in my opinion, in this game. I think that the New England Patriots are going to come outright and beat the Dolphins and upset them. At least that's my hope because that's the bet I'm taking. But I like New England to upset here in this position. I feel like a lot of people are doubting New England. And I'm like, they were on a playoff run possibly last year. Mac Jones' first season as quarterback for New England.
Yeah, and to that point, Taylor, do you expect a sophomore slump from Mac Jones?
I don't think so. I feel like when you have a coach like Bill Belichick, you're being set up for success in this league. No matter what you think, he's a guy who is going to coach you right. And he's obviously done a great job coaching quarterbacks. Look at Tom Brady. So I don't think so. I think he's only going to get better. And I think that he was possibly the best rookie quarterback last season. I don't think we see a regression.
Hard to argue that.
I don't think we see a regression. I like the Patriots over the Dolphins in week 1.
Chris, is it too early of a reaction if Tua does not look like, quote, the most accurate quarterback in the NFL that Tyreek Hill has said he is?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, to Taylor's point, it's hard to argue any of that, but Tua is 2-0 against Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots over a short course of his career. there's a lot to be made about Tua and, injuries and staying healthy, and he can't throw the ball deep down the field. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily true using some of our tools. He had the best completion percentage in the NFL among quarterbacks who threw the ball 20 yards deep down the field. The problem is he only threw the ball deep down the field like 26 times. So he's like 13 for 26. That's great. Are they going to try to incorporate that into his game? If you've been watching the preseason, it seems like maybe they will do that, because I know it's a very small sample size and it's only preseason. We take a lot of it with a grain of salt, but new coaching scheme in there. He was throwing the ball deep down the field in his preseason games more so than in his first couple of years. But I don't want to be as like the guy here that's like Team Miami. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I do believe that they, I think they're going to hang. I think they're going to hang around with some offensive teams, and we really will see what Tua is made of, because as we've talked about here as a trio, he is really set up to have some success. He's got a great play caller there, and he's got two solid wide receivers, and we mentioned the speed that he has out of the backfield. So people will be hard on him right away, especially if he does struggle against the Pats in a game that they are favored to win. And like Taylor is correct, a lot of people are backing Miami this week as well. So it may be a short leash, but we will see him all year, and we'll see what he really does have to offer.
And a home game for Miami. Not that really does anything drastic for Miami sports fans, but still, it helps every little last bit. Let's talk about another game. This one's got the Chiefs at the Cardinals. Chiefs are getting -6. This has all the ingredients, Taylor, of just a high-powered shootout. And we were just talking about Tyreek Hill quite a bit. What do you think life is going to look like for Kansas City without Tyreek Hill?
I'm keeping this short, sweet, and to the point with this one. I usually try to back up everything with a bunch of stats. I know that Chris said he's really intrigued by this game. As somebody who lives in Arizona and has watched the Cardinals immensely over the 5 years that I have lived there, they started out great last year, 7-0. Then they lost 7 of their last 11 games. It's just the way that Cliff Kingsbury does things. He can't finish. And Kyler Murray obviously can't either. I am not worried about the Chiefs at all. The fact they got rid of wide receiver Tyreek Hill and he's now with Miami, there are going to be other guys there to pick up the slack. I don't think we're going to see the usual guys like Travis Kelce just getting all the yardage every single game. I think every game it might be a different guy that Patrick Mahomes is throwing to. I am not worried about Kansas City at all. I think Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are pros, and I don't really think Arizona has much to offer.
In regards to Arizona, Chris, handful of injuries, a good amount of injuries, as a matter of fact, coming into this game. What type of Cardinals team do you expect to see when they're at home opening up against Kansas City?
Yeah, a lot what Taylor said. I mean, my intrigue is on the Kansas City side of things, on, the ball movement, Patrick Mahomes spreading it out to some of his new weapons. They brought in MVS, they brought in Juju Smith-Schuster, they drafted Sky Moore. So all of a sudden there's like 3 new wide receivers, 3 new toys for arguably the best quarterback in the NFL, and Patrick Mahomes, to go along with Travis Kelce. On the Arizona side of things, I mean, Taylor's spot on. This is a team that really struggled down the stretch. A losing record, rather, 3-4, I believe, without DeAndre Hopkins. He's not going to be there to start the season, and they're already coming in shorthanded. I'm surprised we don't have Arizona. Like, spoiler alert, we don't have KC as one of our picks here, our 3 picks. I feel like, as you see on the board, it's 4.5. It's now already 5.5. Just before we came on, I saw Zach Ertz is potentially going to be on a pitch count. Rondell Moore is nicked up. Just mentioned no Hopkins. Hollywood is new to this offense. Marquise Brown, he's familiar with Kyler Murray. They played together in Oklahoma in Kyler's Heisman, season. I do believe that's going to be a really nice connection in the NFL. And on top of all of this, Andy Reid, to Taylor's point, is one of the best coaches of all time. And he's been one of the best coaches when he's had more than a week to prepare for a team. And now he's had several weeks to prepare for this matchup. So even though it is a high total, and maybe we'll see Arizona, with a potential backdoor cover or doing their part on offense, Kansas City should be able to put up some points in this game. And if you're a Chiefs fan, I think it's probably exciting just to see what kind of, connection Patrick Mahomes have with some of these new weapons.
You mentioned Hollywood Brown on the Cardinals, and I'm just curious. I thought I read and saw that he's out this week because of a cooking accident. He burnt his feet. I am pretty sure I read that.
You were watching The Office before you came on here?
And I was like, no,
like Antonio Brown with the feet again.
I'm telling you, he burnt his feet cooking. That's what it said. He got in a cooking accident. This was something that I recently saw. I am almost positive it's Hollywood Brown for the Cardinals. So maybe
I'm seeing it too. Yes, I don't know if that means he's
thought I saw
officially
it.
out, but
his
weird,
feet
interesting,
burnt his
something to keep
feet,
an eye on.
something crazy like that.
I don't
Well,
know
if
what
that's
they're
the
doing.
case, Tom,
Yeah.
and he can't play, who are they going to have on the field this week?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, before we found out about that horrible cooking accident, I was about to say there's a prop on Kyler Murray on FTNBets.com across the board. It's an over-under of 1.5 passing touchdowns. I was about to say smash the over on that, and now I'm not so sure. Taylor, you're the best when it comes to props. What do you think?
I'm like, who's he throwing to? I honestly think I could see Arizona thinking they're going to come out hot like they do every year. And I think because of all the injuries that they're sustaining right now, I just don't see it happening. And I feel like when the Arizona Cardinals get in a slump, it's very hard for them to get out of it. They ended on a slump last year, getting blown out in the playoffs to the Rams. I think going into this year, I would be shocked if they started out very hot with all the players that they've lost right now.
Hot is the operative word for Hollywood Brown, especially. Again, for everybody watching live, please hop in the comments section. Let us know if you've got any questions, anything you guys want us to weigh in on. We are here for you. Another game that we're definitely focusing on is we talked about it a little bit. The Raiders at the Chargers. Chargers, I believe, last I saw, were getting -3.5 at home. So a pair of games in this entire weekend at SoFi Stadium between what we saw last night for the Rams and the Chargers. So LA is being the place to be. It's an AFC West showdown, and especially this is a blood feud, I guess you could call it, because the Raiders bumped the Chargers out of the playoff race in Week 18 with an overtime win last season. So there is an axe to grind for LA. There's so many new pieces on both of these teams. Chris, you were just talking about some additions to the Chiefs that maybe could help them out, but there are 24 new players on the Raiders, 22 new players on the Chargers, and especially for the Chargers, 6 new defensive starters. How do you expect this to go?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a high total game. I think that's what we'll see. I know that there's players on both sides of this team, either team on the defensive side, especially on the Chargers. Even without JC Jackson potentially playing in this game, there's a lot of just nice players that they have on the squad that can get some pressure off a depleted offensive line in the Raiders. But I'm excited just to talk about this game because it's this division. It's everybody. We just talked about the Chiefs and what they've done to try to replace Tyreek Hill. And then these two teams, if you just mentioned, Tom, has 40 plus new players in these squads. It's amazing. And then you have the Broncos as well, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point in this show. But I'm actually looking forward to seeing how this offense is going to look like under Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels coming over from New England, and at times, some really good offenses there, with Tom Brady, of course, but Randy Moss. Can Devontae Adams be that Randy Moss? Can Hunter Renfrow in the slot be Wes Welker? And then you have Darren Waller there as well. So, I mean, you saw the point total on that board, over 50 points. I think we'll see this will be the beginning of what will be a crazy, fun division all year long with shootouts and great scoring. And you're right. Last time we saw these teams, it was on the bright lights, under the bright lights on the big stage, almost a tie for both of these teams to get into the playoffs. And it ended up being a walk-off field goal for the Raiders. But I'm just looking forward to both offenses here, but a new looked offense with the Raiders. And Derek Carr is kind of underrated, in my opinion. He's usually one of the most accurate quarterbacks. He was top 5 in passing yards last year. There was so much that happened with this Raiders squad, from losing players because of off-field issues and losing their head coach. And now you bring in arguably one of the best wide receivers in football in Devontae Adams. So I'm really, and that's a connection too. We talked about Hollywood and Kyler. These guys played in college together as well, Carr and Adams. So you're starting to see that across the league. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what that offense could look like.
Taylor, to Chris's point, how aggressive should fans be in regards to betting individually on David Carr and on Devontae Adams?
Ooh, I don't know. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I am staying so clear of this game. And mostly to Chris's points, for the reason that both of these teams are on the up and up. And I feel like in Week 18 last year, that was the most exciting Week 18 game that we had. I think Chargers head coach Josh McDaniels is one of the greatest offensive minds in football right now. And the Raiders went out and grabbed receiver Devontae Adams to match up with the familiar quarterback of Derek Carr. And I also think he's a very underrated quarterback. They also got linebacker Chandler Jones. But I think it's time for the Chargers in this one to really step up if they are going to make a difference. Quarterback Justin Herbert, he has the most passing yards and the most touchdowns by a quarterback in the first 2 years of his career in NFL history. So I think that's something to note. And I feel like with their coaching staff and what they are now bringing to the table, I think it's time for them to step up or step out if they are going to be a contending team in this division. I'm steering clear of this game, though, because I'm just more excited to watch it more than anything than to put any bets on it.
I completely agree with you, Taylor. And Chris, one thing I think about when it comes to Justin Herbert is that after last night, a lot of the futures bets in regards to Josh Allen becoming MVP this season went through the roof. People are trying to buy low, so to speak. And some people have been talking about Justin Herbert as a dark horse for MVP. Would you put that bet down?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was 12-1 a couple weeks ago. Is something that certainly we talked on one of my shows. Yeah, I mean, he's set up to have success. I mean, Taylor just mentioned the success he's already had. You got Brendan Staley now as a year 2 head coach. He was very aggressive last year. Maybe he scales it back a little bit. You got to feel like a head coach in his second year is got a better feel and grasp of things and how to run an offense. Plus, they've done a great job over the past couple of years to bolster that offensive line through the draft. So that's one of the better offensive lines in football and one of the most improved from the time that they drafted Justin Herbert. You got a veteran in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams who can stretch the field. You got a nice young up and coming Joshua Palmer. Gerald Everett is a solid tight end. I think an upgrade over Cook last year. So there's a lot of nice pieces with this Chargers squad and a lot of really nice pieces defensively. Taylor's absolutely correct here. It is time to put up or step because this has been the trendy team for years now. You always look at the Chargers on paper and you say, wow, how can this team not win the Super Bowl, let alone get to the playoffs, right? This is a team that hasn't been able to get there. So, yeah, if they can stay healthy, it's one of those squads, Tom, if you're playing on Madden, right, you turn injuries off and you just roll all year with the Chargers. You're not going to go into any issues, but I'd like to see them stay healthy. But certainly on paper, they're one of the best in the NFL. And I think this is going to be a tight game. I would actually lean with the Raiders to hang around and, kind of cover that 3.5.
Considering how competitive the AFC West should be, this is going to be a good indicator as well as what we're going to see out of the Chiefs this weekend. Before we get to what's going to happen on Sunday Night Football, because I know a lot of attention goes there, and of course Monday Night Football, again, I want to invite everybody to get involved in the chat and let us know if you've got any questions whatsoever for any games, matchups, anything throughout the league. Adam Reckamp, thank you so much for getting involved a lot. My best bet of the weekend is a 2-team teaser, Saints +1 and Bengals pick'em. Taylor, I'm going to throw this one at you. What do you think?
Ooh, Saints +1. Interesting. Bengals pick'em. I'm not sure how I feel about the Bengals this week. I'm actually thinking that I would take the points with the Steelers in that game. I think that they could possibly upset the Bengals. I'm worried we'll see another Super Bowl hangover. And a lot of people have talked about Joe Burrow looking extremely frail lately, and he just had that appendectomy. So I'm just interested to see how he is going to come out week 1. And a lot of times these divisional games are very close in the beginning of the season. And the Steelers, I mean, Tomlin, how you can't count him out. I've never been somebody, being from Chicago, who puts a lot of faith in Mitch Trubisky. But an interesting stat that I looked up last night is I believe has the 6th highest winning percentage from a quarterback since 2018, which was crazy to me because I would never think that. I would never throw his name into that conversation. But he's better than a lot of people think. So I would possibly go with the Steelers there. I like the Saints at +1. I thought the spread on that, though, is Saints favored by 5.5, I believe. So I like the Saints way over the Falcons in that game.
Yeah, when it comes to Mitch Trubisky, it's Rex Grossman confusing statistics. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
And and then it's also the question, how quickly do you see Kenny Pickett potentially inserted into the lineup? Very interested in that. Thank you to the Daily Handle for getting involved. Chris, I'll throw this one at you. What is your opinion on the Giants +5.5?
I don't love it. I really don't like this Giants squad all that much. I like maybe the direction that they're going with Brian Daboll, right? He's a creative mind. He did some great things with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills over the past couple of seasons, but there's a lot of holes on this Giants team. I liked their draft. They drafted some nice pieces. They've tried to address that offensive line. I'm just not a big believer in Daniel Jones. I don't think that Daboll can fix him. I think he can improve him overall as a passer, but this is a guy who's got more turnovers than games started in the NFL. NFL. We've seen nothing from Kenny Golladay over the past couple of years. I mean, literally nothing. I mean, the guy is paid more than anybody really at the wide receiver position, and he averaged just under 40 receiving yards last year with 0 touchdowns. I mean, you have to go back, I think, to 2019 is the last time that guy scored a touchdown. And there's a lot of question marks with some of their wide receivers. I just think Daily Handle, you want to back a dog. I would probably back the Steelers and what Taylor said here. Division game, a really good defense. Tomlin's always had a winning record, at least 8-8 over the course of his career as a head coach. You can go back almost 20 years and see that. Even with bad quarterback play last year, Trubisky could maybe do enough to hang tight, and Burrow is coming off that surgery. I just feel like the biggest thing with the Daily Handle is the Giants. Can they keep up to the Titans offensively? Sure. The Titans are not going to be a juggernaut, but they're not going to be able to stop Derrick Henry. It was one of the teams that just had issues stopping the run last year, and I feel like that'll continue this year. So I'm not totally in on that one. I'd rather the next one there, that Vikings money line. I'm kind of intrigued on that one. That's possible. I can get behind that.
Yeah, Kai guy saying Vikings money line, no OT for Green Bay or Lazard. I mean, Taylor, we were talking about this before. Who's Kyler Murray going to throw to? Who in the world is Aaron Rodgers throwing to? And it's Lazard, basically.
No idea. Absolutely no idea. That game intrigues me in the sense of looking at a player prop more than anything else. I would go Kirk Cousins over on his passing yards total. I believe it's at 274.5. I would definitely go with that. I mean, he has an amazing receiving core in Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. I don't think that Kirk Cousins is going to have any trouble there. It was actually laughable to me, though. I was looking at Kirk Cousins' rushing yards total. It's set at 3.5 yards. I actually laughed at that because I was like, is that for real? 3.5 yards. It is for real. And he's had games where he's had 0 rushing yards. So if you're going to do anything in that game for me, I don't want to go with the points, 1.5, way too close on the spread there. Too nervous to take a money line winner. So I'm going to go Kirk Cousins over on his passing total there. Do not look at the rush yards. It will scare you because it definitely scared me.
He's going to do one big scamper and you're going to be like,
no, I know. I'm going to be like, I should have taken it over 3.5 yards.
Oh, man. All right. Well, let's get to Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. Now, I know, Taylor, you're going to be very excited about this because you're a Cowboys fan. I'm an Eagles fan, so I'm going to love butting heads with you throughout the season. This is too. Great.
Oh, let's go. 2 against 1 here.
Bucks at Cowboys once again to open the season. Right now, the Bucks are getting 1.5. This is a very interesting matchup because it's the perennial promise of the Dallas Cowboys and the perpetual letdown that are the Dallas Cowboys. And then you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which feel like this big question mark ever since Tom Brady missed a considerable amount of the offseason, saying, quote, I'm 45 and I had a lot of stuff going on. How do you feel about this matchup, Taylor?
Oh, okay, rematch of week 1, Bucks, Cowboys, different stadium, but same thing we have going on here. I am very nervous, and I don't like to place bets on my own team, so I usually don't bet on them. For this game, though, specifically, I'm actually slightly picking against Dallas in this. With a player prop, I know it's shocking. I'm going Dallas quarterback. Dak Prescott to throw an interception in this game. He only had 10 all of last season, but one of those was against Tampa Bay in the opener last year. Dallas's O-line is full of question marks. Leo Collins left. Tyrone Smith now is out till at least December. Prescott left practice early the other day because of ankle pain. Apparently, it's the same ankle he fractured in 2020. As a Cowboys fan, that makes me very worried. So I'm a little nervous that he's going to come out jittery. He's going to need protection from that O-line. He might not be able to get it. So for Dak Prescott to throw a pick, it's at plus 100 right now, and I love the value on that play. So unfortunately, slightly going against my Cowboys.
I know that breaks your heart, and it makes me so happy to hear that it is breaking. Chris, let me come to you on this. Are the Bucks offensive weapons, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, are they making this team the most difficult player prop team in the NFL this season? There are a lot of options.
Yeah, it's a good question. And you're probably right. There are a lot of options, and maybe you're just going to live in the over Tom Brady passing yards or over Tom Brady 2.5 passing touchdowns. Using some of our pace tools from last year, they played at a very, very quick pace. They didn't care. It wasn't like Tom Brady with New England when they were up, they, maybe run out the clock a little bit, use all their running backs. So it just feels like in the 2 years we've seen Tom Brady with the Bucs, it's just pedal to the metal. Let's see how many points that we can score here. Oh, I'm 44. Wow, I'm going to lead the NFL in passing attempts, passing yards, and passing touchdowns. It's exactly what we saw last year from Tom Brady. Now they add Russell Gage. They add Julio Jones. They have Mike Evans, who has 8 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Only player to do that in NFL history to start off his career. He's just automatic. Chris Godwin may be on a pitch count. He may not be active this week. Russell Gage is just new to the offense. So this may be a week actually to get involved with Mike Evans, maybe to get involved with Julio Jones, like plus 240 for an anytime touchdown now that he's healthy right now. We don't want to take too many shots at the future Hall of Famer, but he is healthy. He's on the field, and he's going to be with Tom Brady. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to figure out. And that's Leonard Fournette as well. I didn't even really mention him. He was top 5 among backs and catches last year, and targets is another guy out of the backfield that can be really productive for Tom Brady. So I'll probably stay away from a lot of Bucs props, but I will be involved with Brady. If they continue to – they have awesome offensive line issues as well. So if they could be a team. He could be just like Dak, right? These two quarterbacks could just be dropping back and throwing the ball 40 plus times. So it can create for some turnovers and also can create for some big plays. So I'll be interested in probably his passing yard prop moving forward.
That's the matchup for Sunday Night Football. Let's turn our attention to Monday Night Football. Hey, guys, let's ride because it's the Broncos and Russell Wilson at the Seahawks. The Broncos getting 6.5 for this road game. Taylor, there couldn't be more of a lopsided quarterback battle this weekend, perhaps, than what we're going to see on Monday Night Football. Russell Wilson makes his debut in a Broncos uniform against Geno Smith for the Seattle Seahawks. Who in the world could have seen that coming?
Oh, I think in this game, I don't have much to say on it because I'm a little disappointed this is the game that got chose for Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think it really comes more down to the entertainment factor in this game. It's really convenient how the NFL can bring Russell Wilson back to his old stomping grounds in week 1. That's the whole reason it's the Monday Night Football game. I'm shocked that the spread's not bigger. I would take Denver by, I don't know, more than 2 touchdowns, honestly. I don't think the Seahawks have anything to offer. They were horrible to watch in the preseason. Granted, it is the preseason, but who do they have? Geno Smith is not an NFL starting quarterback. And, I mean, it's not even comparable looking at Russell Wilson and Geno Smith.
It's really hard to take DK Metcalf in this game. It's really hard to take Tyler Lockett in this game. My thought was potentially Noah Fant, a former Denver Bronco, now Seattle Seahawks tight end.
I too.
There you go. We're keeping it Big Ten as well and NFC East, so this is going to be fun through the season. No, but Noah Fant has an over-under in receiving yards of 24.5. I actually love that. I think hammer the over on that because, frankly, when you have a quarterback who is not as talented, often the option is to go to the tight end, and especially because the Seattle Seahawks are possibly going to be starting 2 rookies at the tackle spot. I don't know if Geno Smith is going to have a ton of time to throw, and as a result, having those outlet options to a tight end like Fant could really, really help. Chris, when you look at this matchup, does Seattle have to do one particular thing just to keep this close to maybe make you feel like, oh, they could cover here?
Yeah, they're going to need that 12th man. They're going to need 13, 14, 15. Like it really will be bumping in Seattle. It probably shouldn't be the Monday night game, but I am looking forward to seeing this just because of the storyline with Russell Wilson and the fact that he's leaving and, that he's left. And all we know from Russell Wilson is his time in Seattle and Pete Carroll. And there's been some shots fired from Russell Wilson to Pete Carroll over the past couple of days. Like, oh, they held me back. They've always had a run first team. And, you hear the term, let Russ cook. You've always heard that. And now he's on a new squad. And I just think he's going to go into Seattle and he is going to cook with some of his weapons. I don't know if Seattle is going to be able to do much at all. I mean, defensively, they don't have the pieces. They also lost Bobby Wagner. Who was drafted in the same round as Russell Wilson. So it's a huge loss for these Seahawks fans to lose both of those guys. The offensive line is not great. So to your point, it is going to be tough for them to move the ball offensively as well. I will say this, using our splits tools, it's a very small sample, but in 4 games with Geno Smith, DK Metcalf had 5 touchdowns. He had 6.8 more fantasy points per game. It just felt like Geno was, where's my best guy? You know what I mean? And that probably will go into his mindset this time too. Like, Denver's going to be able to push the pace and score points. where is my alpha wide receiver? It's a bit of an easier throw as opposed to Tyler Lockett, who's more of a deeper threat in the offense, is a finesse throw, which I don't think he's very capable of, as Taylor put. I would say DK is interesting. I think it's 55.5, but I'm really looking forward to, Tom, this new connection with Russell Wilson and Cortland Sutton. I think it could be a lot like Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp last year, like a new connection for these guys. One of the best deep balls we've ever seen in Russell Wilson. He threw more passes deep down the field, 20 yards deep down the field than any quarterback last year. The percentage of passes, 19%. And Cortland Sutton runs very similar routes as Tyler Lockett. I think it's a match made in heaven for these two guys, and I think we'll see them light it up. 56.5 for Cortland Sutton is just too low. I think Russell's got things to prove here week one, and I think he's going to target his best guys. So look for Cortland Sutton to have a big game on Monday.
And even to that point, if Wilson does not go off through the airs because he doesn't necessarily have to, I could see a game where Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon have a lot of opportunities and can just get this one running away for the Denver Broncos late in the game. So Russ might not have to cook. He may. We'll see what happens. But, well, I want to get now to our 3-and-out best bet segment. So we are going to do this every single time you tune in for the FTN Bets NFL betting show. We are going to give you our bronze, silver, and gold picks for the weekend. Taylor, ladies first. Let's hear your bronze pick for the first weekend of NFL action.
All right, my bronze pick for week one, Baltimore Ravens at the New York Jets. I'm going to lay the points with Baltimore -7. The Ravens went 8-9 in 2021 with an injury-plagued squad. Running back J.K. Dobbins and cornerback Marcus Peters both returning. I'm high on Baltimore going into this season. They have the 5th-ranked O-line and the defense ranked number 6. Quarterback of the Jets, Zach Wilson, is going to be out. We have Joe Flacco coming in. He's 37 years old. He's aging, and I just don't think he's going to get the job done in this one at all. Normally, I don't follow betting trends, but this one I'm going to ride with and take the wave. You fade the Jets in September. The Jets have lost 12 straight in the month of September, and against the spread, they're 1-11. So I'm going Ravens -7 for my bronze pick week one.
Jets are gonna Jets, and at the same time, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens did not come to an agreement on extending his contract. So he has said publicly he is going to play out the last season of his contract and see what happens. So I, like you, expect Lamar Jackson to be going off with something to prove through the entire season, and especially week one against a bad opponent. Chris, who gets your bronze medal for week one?
You know, it's Antonio Gibson. If you asked me a couple weeks ago if I'd be in on Antonio Gibson, it would probably be the under, but I'm going to take the over on his 58.5 rushing yard prop. You can get it at plus money there, 106. This is a pretty good spot against Jacksonville. They allowed 125 rushing yards per game last season and the 3rd most rushing touchdowns, 22. But a lot has happened over the past couple of weeks. I mean, 3 weeks ago, Antonio Gibson was in the doghouse. He was fumbling balls. They had him returning punts in practice. They had drafted Brian Robinson. Unfortunately for him, he's not going to be able to play in this game. They did bring back J.D. McKissick, but I expect him to keep his 3rd down role, maybe some 2-minute drill. So we have Antonio Gibson projected for 16.8 carries. In all 7 games last season, when he had at least 16 carries, he topped 60 yards. He even had 2 games with fewer than 15 carries, and he still managed to top 60 rushing yards. So this is a guy that had 1,000 yards, 4.0 yards per attempt. If we have him for 16 carries, and I do believe that's a little conservative, I think he could flirt with maybe 20 carries in this game, a very winnable contest against Jacksonville. I think he can get up to 58.5. I think he can top that. Yeah, we actually have him projected for 67 rushing yards here in this contest. So this is a guy that topped that mark in 9 of his 16 games. So I do believe he's back in the coach's circle of trust for now. But I do believe he'll have at least an opportunity, and that's what I'm going for here.
He's in the trust nest. As a longtime Eagles fan, Carson Wentz needs a good running game. So a steady diet and success for Antonio Gibson could lead to success for Carson Wentz. Could. I'm going to leave it at that. Let's keep it with running backs as we transition to our silver medal winners this weekend, or silver picks, that is. Taylor, who's your silver pick?
Another divisional game. There's a ton of them in week one between the Texans and the Colts. Love a player prop, Colts running back and workhorse, Jonathan Taylor. Everyone's number one fantasy pick this year. I'm not going over on his rushing total like most would think, but over on his receptions at 2.5. It's a plus money prop at 140. Over his last 10 games, he's averaging 3 targets a game. That number might not entice you, but the Colts want to get their running backs more involved in the pass this season. Their opening last year to Houston, they're sporting the second ranked worst defense in the entire league. Taylor started off last year in week 1 on fire with 6 receptions. This could be a little bit of a risky play, but I'm hoping that Matt Ryan throws some check down passes to Jonathan Taylor and he goes over 2.5 receptions in this one.
I'm excited to see what he can do because he's definitely somebody that fantasy owners have been really high on for the last couple of years. And he feels like every single year he's poised to break out. Speaking of pass catchers, Chris, your silver pick is someone that you believe is very underrated, especially amongst tight ends in the National Football League.
Yeah, I think we'll see a breakout season from Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears. Now, they don't have a lot of options in the passing game, so he's going to get a lot of looks here. He checks in with a receiving yard prop at 30.5. I see some spots. The prop shop can be your friend. It's like Google search. You can find the best possible odds. I see some 36 out there, but this is a pretty good line at 30.5, minus 114 for the over here. It started off pretty mediocre for him, very underwhelming in his sophomore season last year. 2 or fewer catches in 4 of his first 6 games, and then at least 3 grabs in each of his final 7 contests and 11 of his last 12. He averaged 36 yards per game, so it's over this. He topped 30.5 in 5 of his last 7 contests. And in those 7 games, he averaged 6.7 targets, 4.4 grabs, and 45 yards. He was one of 2 players last year to have 60 catches and no touchdowns. Now, part of that was the quarterback play. Part of that was the head coach. We still have Justin Fields, who I do believe is an upgrade over Andy Dalton, which he saw a little bit of last season. And Matt Nagy is gone. And I think that is great for everybody in Chicago. But honestly, this is just too low. Again, using some of our projections, we have him over 40 receiving yards. There's just nobody in this game, Tom. Like, you have Darnell Mooney, you have Cole Kmet, and then who else? They didn't do anything in the offseason to help Justin Fields. Velus Jones is a wide receiver they drafted who's not even going to play in this game. Byron Pringle is not going to play in this game. They just don't have a lot of options. They're checking in as 7-point dogs. They're going to have to throw the football. They can run all they want. They can say that they want to use all their running backs and run with Justin Fields, but they're going to have to throw the football to keep up with the 49ers. So I'm taking the over 30.5, and I think we'll see a breakout season from the third-year tight end, who's a former second-round pick, and I think he's got a lot to offer.
Also, I'd keep an eye on any bets regarding Justin Fields' rushing total because I feel like he's going to be running for his life a little bit. Not necessarily because of pass rush, because he just won't have any other option. Staying within that game, Taylor, your gold pick is with the Chicago Bears' opponent, the San Francisco 49ers.
It is. I'm back in my hometown of Chicago right now, and everybody's talking about, my family was just over, and most of them are Bears fans. They were like, what do we have to look forward to this year? Absolutely nothing. I think this game is intriguing, though, because you have 2 young quarterbacks in their second year. San Francisco's Trey Lance played backup most of his rookie season to Jimmy Garoppolo. And, of course, Chicago's Justin Fields. These 2 are bound to make mistakes out there. So I noticed Chris and I, neither of us touched on a total at all. And this is another game I would stay away from the total because I think there could be several turnovers and mistakes by both of these young guys, or there could be a ton of scoring. You just never know which way it's going to go. And I'm like, I would sprinkle on Fields getting an interception in this one. He had 10 last season, more than he had touchdown passes with 7. So that's a bet that you could possibly look at. But my gold pick and my favorite prop of the week is backing Niners wide receiver Deebo Samuel for over 60.5 receiving yards. Samuel smashed this over in 3 out of his 5 last starts. And the Bears D is not hot. They give up an average of 157 yards to wideouts. In a game where Chicago enters this season ranked with the 24th worst defense in the entire league. So Deebo Samuel over 60.5 receiving yards should be easy money in my opinion.
Just for the record, the over-under on that game is 40.5 currently on FTNBets.com, and the Niners are getting -7 on the road at Chicago. That is going to be fun. Our final gold pick, and we do have a bonus pick from Taylor that we're going to get to here in just a moment, but our final gold pick from Chris Meaney. We're heading back into the land of running backs, and believe it or not, it's someone who plays for the Houston Texans.
I know. What am I thinking here? A gold pick? A member of the Houston Texans? This guy hasn't even played a snap in the NFL yet. A meaningful snap in the NFL. Is one of the most talked about players in the NFL over the offseason. In the fantasy world, he was 11th round pick, 10th round pick 5 weeks ago. All of a sudden, he scooted up to a 4th round pick, getting taken off the board as a top 20 running back. It's Dameon Pierce of the Houston Texans. I like the over on his rushing yard prop, as you see there, 46.5. I think it's just too low. It opened up at 41.5. I want to give a shout out to FTN Alerts on Twitter. You get notified right away when one of us makes a bet over at FTN, so you can get those odds, but those best possible odds, because things are going to change from time to time. Heck, I feel like this prop may get up to 51, 52 by the time kickoff happens on Sunday, but I would take anything over 55. In fact, we have him for 58 yards rushing over at FTN in our projections, and I feel like that's a little conservative here. This guy came on strong in the preseason and into camp. His first preseason game was 5 carries, 49 yards, busted off a 20-yard run, showed the upside, and then they didn't even play him in the second preseason game, which is very telling for me that the Texans already knew what they had in this guy, that he had already won the starting job, and then they cut Marlon Mack. And then in the third preseason game with the starters, with the offensive line, which is not bad. The Texans, you can take shots at them all day. I get that. But they actually have a decent offensive line, which is really key here. And in that third game, he played with the starters. He drove them all the way up the field, 6 carries, 49 yards, had a 12-yard run, capped it off with a rushing touchdown. I think that this guy, it really is for rookies all about landing spot and opportunity. And he is in a perfect landing spot, and he's going to have a lot of opportunity in this game. Rex Burkhead is a veteran back who may steal a couple touches here and there, especially on third down, as maybe the better pass blocker here, and that's very important, especially protecting Davis Mills, a second-year quarterback. But I believe that we'll see Pierce get 15-plus carries. I know the matchup on paper isn't great in Indy, but we have Darius. Don't call me Darius. It's actually Shaquille Leonard now. One of the best linebackers in the game, a run stopper. He is ruled out of this game, so that is a huge plus for the Texans. Maybe they can keep pace and move the ball a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see. I also like the over on his attempts. 11.5, I think, is minus 115. I think that he's carrying the ball 15-plus times in this game, and I think he'll top 50 yards.
Those are your bronze, silver, and gold picks. This is 3 and out, our best bets. However, we do have a 4th down, thanks to Taylor Mathis, and it's a game that we actually haven't talked about throughout this entire show. It features the Cleveland Browns on the road against the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers currently on FTNBets.com are getting half a point in the spread. It's very interesting, but I love the irony of your pick, Taylor. It is hilarious, actually, on paper. Tell us all about it.
Well, I'm like, this one is just a fun one. I feel like this game is purely for entertainment. We might as well call it the Baker Bowl. He's getting his shot at revenge in week 1 against the Cleveland Browns with his new team, the Panthers. I think this is going to be such an interesting and fun game to watch. I want to stay away from the game entirely when it comes to betting the spread or the total. But for the value here, I'm going to go with Browns quarterback Jacoby Brissett and Baker Mayfield to both throw a pick in a 2-leg parlay. It's at plus money, 295. Brissett clearly does not scare the Panthers. They have arguably the best pair of cornerbacks in the league with C.J. Henderson and J.C. Horn. I wouldn't be surprised if they grabbed one. I think Mayfield will be so fired up that he's going to make a mistake or two. He's bound to throw an interception at some point. I think this is going to be a grudge match and so fun to watch. With the value on that, why not put a little bit of money on it for both of them to throw picks? I think it's great.
Love it.
It's the most Browns thing that could possibly happen. And especially the way the Matt Rule tenure has gone in Carolina. It just seems very fitting. It seems very fitting. Stefano, thank you. That is a hammer play. I completely agree. So that's a great bonus pick from Taylor. We appreciate you just giving away free money like that. You're really nice. Really nice for a Cowboys fan.
Good.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us here. The debut of the FTN Bets NFL Betting Show. This show, along with Chris Meaney, Taylor Mathis, myself, and Mike Randall, will be back every Friday live at 5 p.m. Eastern. Then, of course, check this out so you can be up to date on everything throughout the weekend. So you have all the information that we just gave you. We hope we'll see you guys back next week, and we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us here on the FTN Bets NFL Betting Show.